Hi, and welcome to this series on orthodontia. I'm Jen, and I'm a physical therapist with extra training in myofascial release and craniosacral therapy. And I have 25 years of experience working with adults and my own kids with spinal development, occipital, vagus, throat, prevention, potential, and unwinding really difficult conditions with humans in my practice in Boston. I'm here to tell you, as mom to mom, and share the journey with our child that we are taking to an orthodontist. Now, to rewind, I have an older daughter that I put in orthodontia when she was in about sixth or seventh grade. As a Gen Xer, we all came back from that awkward summer in seventh and eighth grade when people showed up with their glasses and their metal mouth. And then later on, I saw those people on my table professionally with neck pain, headaches, really forward shifted head, glued up occiput, glued up tailbones. And I'm going to try to just impart to you, mom to mom, ways to look at this and proceed, no matter what age your child's at and whatever conditions that they're working with along the way. So first of all, if you want to talk about skull development, by the age of 6, the diameter is 51 to 52 centimeters. By the age 8, which is third grade, 52 to 53 centimeters. By age 12, 52 to 56 centimeters, and 14, 55 to 57. Now, what's the point of all of that? That just means when your child's skull is growing, you have an opportunity to work with the bones of the skull, right? So the maxilla is right here. And what classically was happened with the Gen Xers and my older daughter was orthodontia was meant to fix the overbite and sort of cosmetic. And, they tried to address bite, but they did it much after the skull was fully developed. So they were trying to take the teeth roots to change a bone, the alignment of the teeth inside a bone that had already fully matured. So starting earlier while that bone is very pliable and developing, and the bones are getting that feedback into the osteoblasts, osteoclasts that decide how your bone's going to work. Starting our child with a maxilla spreader to start from this bone, the bottom out, just giving a tiny bit of constant feedback to that bone as it's growing to model potentially a better airway, better breathing, better ability for tongue positioning, and so on. So that's the why so early question. Why a maxilla spreader? What I just said, the old school was to put you in headgear, put you in really complicated rubber bands that was using your teeth roots, which later, have a tendency of holding latent infection. Us Gen Xers, we had our amalgam mercury fillings in there. Leveraging your face through your teeth, which is also going to change the alignment of the neck bone. That maxilla here, as a craniosacral therapist, I do a lot of release to the maxilla sinuses as it relates to the occiput to open up old infection, lymphatic drainage that isn't very good, to try to get a little more space and neutrality in the whole cervical spine. When you've leveraged the face, while also, some of the kids I'm thinking about in 7th and 8th grade were soccer players, right? They were heading the ball, football players getting tackled, gymnasts doing extreme range of motion with the neck. My current daughter, who's 8, in ballet, doing really long end range neural tension for stretching while you're also pulling on the face and the dura. That deserves the reverence that your body needs to develop fully for yourself. So I was talking to a couple moms last weekend while we were at a birthday party. And so all of our kids are 7 and 8-year-olds. And this mom was saying, oh yeah, like her dentist said that her daughter should, go to the orthodontist in about 2 years. And so I gave her the name of the person that we're going to, just because getting it started early, we're hoping that having that maxilla spreader and that bottom retainer, along with some fascial work and craniosacral work that I'm going to be doing with her, and intentional, how to tighten the maxilla spreader, which is, you, the parent, have now been given the privilege and the honor of doing that work, of tightening that maxilla spreader that's going to give that feedback to that jaw, upper jaw, so therefore the tongue can develop. So there's many things out there right now with myofunctional therapy, tongue exercises, EMDRI, cranial nerve feedback loops, breath work. All of this is going to be relevant for your developing skulls of your children. I'm just going to try to help you look at all of the things and then also share how I'm approaching it. So some people might ask me, why aren't you just doing craniosacral therapy? Because I am expertly trained, 25 years in craniosacral whole body approach therapist. But, in the James Nestor book, he goes into jaw and airway research of all the indigenous cultures and skulls along the way. And nasal breathing and chewing are two of the main reasons why your jaw is going to develop the way they do. Our kids tend to have a softer diet. We're not foraging on acorns and crushing walnuts with our teeth and chewing on, animal bones. We're not doing that kind of chewing. So that being said, my child also is in the very upper percentile where she's a full head taller than anyone else in her class. So the amount of feedback that it would take for me to do that amount of craniosacral therapy with her every night for those long holds, just having the orthodontic maxilla spreader device that is just going to push up against that bone. And each turn that we do as parents is 1/4 of a millimeter. So osteopathic, interbarrier zone, speaking, that amount of pressure is a reasonable ask for the body to just do that ask while their skull's developing. So yes, I'm a craniosacral therapist. Yes, we're doing myofunctional exercises. And I'm also tweaking the schedule that my orthodontist has given us as far as the timing based on what I feel in her body. So if you, no matter where you are on the spectrum of the age of your child, what your concerns are, if they're a mouth breather, if they have sinus infections, if they have asthma, if they've been an ear infection kid, I'm going to try to cover all of that in this video series. So what actually is an airway orthodontist? An airway orthodontist is kind of what it sounds like. They're going to be trained to pay attention to the tongue position and the airway, depending, like I said, if your child's a mouth breather. My daughter's not a mouth breather, but she does have an overbite and a bit of a narrow palate and some crowding and the bottom part of her teeth are kind of growing in 45 degrees this way. So you want to go and look, and I'm going to share in the link below where we're going. And if you're a mom out there or a parent out there that has had a pleasure of an experience with an office that you feel like is really listening to you and taking good care and paying attention to the whole picture, just put a link there for the other parents along the way. So that's why so early. Why so early? Their skull is growing. You get one chance to try to help that develop. Yes, I'm a craniosacral therapist, but having that amount of hours while they're sleeping, just that little bit of a pressure feedback onto that bone while it's growing, modeling all night, repair. I've decided, with my mama gut and my brain framework and the books I've read on development, I'm going for it. Airway orthodontia, you start early. Don't, if you've waited, that's okay. What my recommendations would be if your child's 10 and you feel like they have that overbite or they're a mouth breather, just find yourself an airway-informed orthodontist in your area. Ours had a free consultation. They took 3D scans of the whole jaw and showed you where the alignment issues are right now and could be later. Find yourself locally a craniosacral therapist, myofascial therapist. Look online at the tongue exercises. We're going to go over a few here in the next module, but that's your call to action. Call to action would be, don't worry if you feel like you've waited too long and now your kid has this fully developed skull and they have an overbite and they mouth breathe at night and maybe you've heard them have some apnea. See a professional, learn some tools yourself. I'm teaching fascial release and how to unwind and other areas in the body that are going to be affected by these growth spurts, concussions, and trying to rearrange your face from your teeth roots. Rewinding all of that to give them the most functional potential in their body possible. See you in the next video.